We talked about the cholesterol that gets sort of stuck on the side of the road. As cholesterol gets left behind, it actually collects on the inside of your vessels, and this is the beginning of heart disease. So a little bit of cholesterol gets left on the side of the road, creating a little bit of damage on the inside of a vessel. Then your body will try and repair that area, and what this does is it creates plaque on the inside of your vessel. So looking at this picture, you can see that the road gets a little bit narrowed, and just like traffic, when the lanes get closed, the flow through that area is not going to be as good. These blockages over time can become complete and ultimately could lead to something like a heart attack. This is just another picture. If you can visualize this, that fatty streak that this arrow is pointing to, that would be the damage. And to the right of that, these are the little blood cells that are trying to go past the path. This is like the cars on the road trying to get past that blockage that's in the road. The issue of cholesterol, though, is not really simple. We know that there are a lot of contributors, and food is really just one of them. We also have to look at your lifestyle. We need to look at your genetics. And this isn't just, it isn't just what you eat. It's also really what did your grandparents give to you in terms of the size of your vessels, and how active are you in order to use up your cholesterol that you produce. So it's not a simple answer. It's not just you have cholesterol problems and you're destined to it. There's actually things that you can do, but you can't change your genetics. Wouldn't it be nice if we could change our genetics? But hope is not lost. There are a lot of things that we can do, and so we're going to focus on those instead of focusing on the things that we just can't change. Let's start with the fact that cholesterol is produced by you, and some people produce the right amount. That's great, but some people produce too much. So let's look at why. Why do some people produce too much? When all things are working well, we don't really need to look at the cholesterol that comes in our food. If you are eating cholesterol, your body takes one look at that cholesterol and says, hey, look, there's cholesterol. I don't need to make that. I can recycle that cholesterol and just use it. On the other hand, when you eat certain types of food, your body has absolutely no choice but to make cholesterol. And so in that case, we can change those foods that we eat, and we can actually not force the body to make extra cholesterol that it didn't want to make. This is where we get into those foods where we start talking about good fats and bad fats. When we eat saturated fat, which is the animal fat that's predominantly in animal-based foods, this is the type of fat that metabolically can only be made into cholesterol. Your body has no choice. That's just the pathway that it follows. So just like a calf grows into a cow, saturated fat that you eat has to be turned into cholesterol within your body. So this is an area that we could actually focus on. A person who has a diet that's too high in saturated fat, we could lower their cholesterol levels by just looking at how much of that saturated fat they take in, and can we just make little changes to lower that amount? First, we have to identify where those foods are. So if you look at the average American diet, anything that has a mama or a face is going to have saturated fat in it. So think about any animal products, any dairy products. They're definitely going to have saturated fat in the fat content that is there. We also need to include tropical oils like coconut oil and others. Those are less and less in our food, though coconut oil is getting a kind of a resurgence these days. It's very hip to use coconut oil. It is a saturated fat. If we're choosing to eat foods that are wrapped in bacon or deep fried, we are going to be getting too much fat, and very likely that's going to be at least part of it saturated fat. So it's really just about making choices. I would hate to just put things into categories to say that there are good fats and there are bad fats. An avocado, yes, is more of a unsaturated fat, but it's not that it's not a fat. It's still a fat. It still has 9 calories per gram, the same as butter. And butter tastes good. So we really need to look at how much of that fat are we using. Are we using a cube of butter at breakfast? Is that any better than eating an entire avocado? Well, gram for gram, calorie for calorie, your body doesn't know the difference, but in the amount of saturated fat, it does make a big difference. So I think it's really, we need to look at the dose of saturated fat, and it's the dose that makes the poison. talking about those good fats and those bad fats. Here are a couple of videos that will hopefully drive that message home in a little bit of a funny way.